Formula One winter testing is complete, and with 3 days down, in 2 weeks' time we head back to Bahrain for the first race of the 2021 season. In today's video, we're going to be going through all the times, all of the data where we can from today's session, taking a look at what teams are looking good heading into the first race of the season and what teams still have a little bit of work to do over the next 2 weeks. As always, if you are new, feel free to subscribe. I hope you all enjoy. If indeed you do, hit that like button down below. But we'll start off today's video taking a look at our times. And on the final day of testing, it was Max Verstappen, a 1:28.9, 2 seconds quicker than the best lap time we had seen before today. On the C4 tyres, 64 laps completed for Max in the afternoon of today's session. It was a Honda 1-2 with Yuki Tsunoda in second place, the Japanese rookie racking up 90 laps in the afternoon for Alpha Tauri, just 9/10 of a second away from Max Verstappen. Was on the C5 tyres, but that Alpha Tauri really looking strong heading into the first race of the season. Carlos Sainz and Kimi Raikkonen came to blows at the end of the final day of testing, making contact at the end of Sector 2. More on that in a moment's time. 6/10 away from Max Verstappen was Sainz in his Ferrari, also on the C4 tyres, but a great amount of laps wrapped up by the Spaniard, 78 for half of the day. But Kimi Raikkonen, who was in the car all day for Alfa Romeo, a whopping 164 laps. An incredible effort from the Finnish driver, completing what is the equivalent of 3 race distances in 1 day. Mega stuff from Kimi Raikkonen on the final day of testing. Another really difficult day though for Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton in 5th place. A car which really doesn't seem to be suiting either driver at the moment, with Valtteri Bottas all the way down in 16th place. Lots of work to do, lots to discuss on the Mercedes front in a moment's time. George Russell, 157 laps completed on his only day of testing. Great to see him finally out in the 2021 Williams. Daniel Ricciardo was behind Sergio Perez. A quieter day for him. He did the morning session, 49 laps for the Mexican driver. Alonso and Charles Leclerc, who was on the C3 tyres, rounded out the top 10. Your bottom half of your 18 drivers today: Lando Norris in 11th place, 56 laps for the McLaren driver in the morning. Gasly was 1276 laps. Alpha Tauri putting in 166 laps today. Awesome job from the Italian team today. Ocon, who was sharing duties with teammate Fernando Alonso, was 13th. The 2 Haas cars, good laps put in today. 14th for Nikita Mazepin, 15th for Mick Schumacher. Slight tyre differences would make up about the time difference between the 2 rookies. Valtteri Bottas, 3.4 seconds away from Max Verstappen. He was on the C2 tyres, and what's more important for Mercedes today is laps completed. 86 is the highest tally of any Mercedes driver over the course of this weekend. Alarming stuff, but what's perhaps even more alarming is more issues for Aston Martin. 17th and 18th. As we always say, don't read too much into the times. The fact they're 6 and 7 seconds away, that is fine. What they needed today was to make sure that car was running, and sadly, they were having more issues. Lots to work on there, lots to work on with Mercedes. We're going to go through each team by team in a moment's time, but I've got a few more little metrics I want to go through, starting off with your laps completed over this weekend of testing. And right at the top, the tie for first, Alfa Romeo and Alpha Tauri on 422 apiece. Ferrari in 3rd place with 404. We then have a little gaggle of cars that couldn't quite reach 400 laps. Alpine 396, Haas 394, Williams 373, Red Bull 369. Then our 3 teams with the lowest laps completed. McLaren, that was quite a surprise seeing them low down, but they're super happy with how their testing plan went, so that's not too alarming to see them down there. But the 2 big ones, again, Aston Martin 314, Mercedes for the first time since their return in 2010, the bottom of our laps completed, only 304 for the reigning world champions, 100 less than Ferrari. But even more scarier for the team, almost 3 whole race distances behind Alfa Romeo and Alpha Tauri. From a power unit side of things, Mercedes have 4 teams, so did complete the most laps overall. That is great for them, but again, had the most issues of any of the teams this weekend. Ferrari, 3 teams, 1,220 laps completed, and actually, considering they've got a brand new power unit for this season, having only 1 issue across the entire weekend, and on the morning of the first day, that's awesome to see. They'll be super chuffed with the reliability on that car. 2 Honda teams, no reliability issues. On the power unit side of things, 791, very respectable across 2 teams, and only 1 Renault-powered team this year, that is Alpine, and of course, 396 laps for the Alpine team. And finally, before we jump into breaking down each team, team by team, or I suppose to segue into that, I have created my provisional running order. This is very, very much not concrete. Do not read into this. This is more a bit of fun. I saw a few people asking over the past couple of days who I think is going to be the team to beat running into next season. On the right hand side, you've got your final standings for last season. But going into the first race, I do think Mercedes will go in as favourites. They've not had a good test, and I think both Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas are not comfortable with that car just yet. But considering the minimal amount of changes from last season, they still should go in as number 1 favourites, as the team that should be winning that first race of the season. That being said, Red Bull, much closer. McLaren seem much closer, and both of those teams who I've put in 2nd and 3rd have an opportunity, I feel, to win the first race of the season, and I do think those front 3 teams will kind of be in a bit of a group on their own. And though I think Red Bull have made a step forward, I really do think McLaren will be the team that have made the biggest step forward, especially with their new rear diffuser, which seems to have got every team on the grid a little bit confused on how they didn't think about it. So great job for both of those teams that seem to have no issues over the course of this weekend. Behind them, it's all a bit of a free-for-all and all a bit of a lucky draw, lucky dip really. I've put Alpine in 4th place with Alpha Tauri in 5th, both teams having almost no issues, Alpha Tauri in particular looking very strong, whereas Aston Martin, which had a great car last year, overall the 3rd quickest, had so many issues this weekend, which in some ways isn't a bad thing. Get your issues out of the way now to learn and improve over these next 2 weeks for the first race of the season. I found them so hard to place, I've put them in 6th, and it's a very similar situation with Ferrari. Will they be the 7th quickest car? I don't think so, but again, from what we can tell from the body language, from the statements coming out from the team, I don't think that proposed, I suppose, gap to clawing back to that best of the rest 3rd place finish, it just doesn't seem like they're there yet. 7th feels harsh. They've definitely improved from last season. That's kind of what that plus and minus scale is on the right hand side. Have they got better from last year or worse in terms of where they finished? So Ferrari, I think, will be better off. But I just look at some of those other teams and I'm not too sure they're ready to beat them just quite yet. Alfa Romeo in 8th, Williams 9th and Haas 10th. But as we have already discussed over this week, I think this back group, and we might as well transition into talking about those 3 teams, I think all of them are ready for a difficult season. Haas, who I've put in 10th place and who I'm expecting to be the lowest of the teams in this year's season. The issue is the overall pace. A good amount of laps completed, 5th overall, right in the middle, but as a team that have already said they will not be improving this year's car at all, no upgrades for the Haas from this point onwards, maybe a point or 2 if there's a carnage race, a bit of weather, they get their strategy right, like we saw last year with Magnussen in Hungary, Grosjean in Germany, but from a general pace perspective, I wouldn't expect anything much more than 10th. A good test for Williams, probably their best in a long time. I've still put them in 9th, and very similar to Haas, I think their focus primarily will be 2022. However, if they just upgrade that car just a little bit, are able to steal 1 point somewhere, or even just a couple of 11th places, finishing 9th will be their best result for years. So for them, I think their target will just keep going, maybe to around 5 or 6 Spanish Grand Prix, Monaco kind of time, bring upgrades, make sure their car is better than the Haas. And I think already from this weekend, it looks better, it looks more stable. We're just going to have to wait and see, because at the moment, I didn't think I'd be saying this, the Ferrari power unit seems to be a little bit more reliable than the Mercedes one. However, both Williams and McLaren that are running Mercedes power units, no troubles so far in 2021. The one team I was actually very impressed with over the course of this test in those back three teams was Alfa Romeo, and it's why I've kept them in 8th, the most laps completed of any team, and again, a quiet test for Alfa Romeo, likewise with Williams, but overall, the general vibe within the team seems very, very positive. It's going to be a mammoth task for them to jump into regular point scoring positions. That would require Ferrari, Aston Martin, Alpha Tauri, Alpine, McLaren, all to be struggling. So putting them anywhere higher than 8th, I just don't see it happening, even if that Ferrari engine is much better for the 2020 season. Likewise, with Williams and Haas, their focus will be 2022, but I think their base car is still better than the Williams, than the Haas, and that will put them in good stead for scoring points, maybe on a couple of occasions over the course of this season. Ferrari. Where do we start with Ferrari? An awful car last year. Things seem better. There was that one power unit issue on day one. There was contact today between Carlos Sainz and Kimi Raikkonen right at the end of the session. Bit of a silly move from Carlos Sainz, diving down the inside of Raikkonen. Nothing too crazy, nothing special to report there. But I think overall, a solid test. The real test for them will be that first race of the season. Will they be able to break into Q3? I'm not too sure at this moment in time. The minimal changes from last year to this year would require that team to have an incredible engine for this year. So where is this pace from Ferrari going to come from? This new rear structure on the car, maybe, but with loopholes promoted from McLaren. Alpine have got their brand new air cooling on the top of the car. There's just nothing that's really exciting me from Ferrari on a technical point coming out of this testing period, and I'm just a little bit worried we didn't see enough from them to give me reason to put them any higher. Maybe 5th or 6th in the running, but any higher than that, at this moment in time, still got a few question marks. Though I do think Ferrari will go a little bit longer than some of the other teams in keeping this season going to try and build back some of that momentum heading into 2022. Another team that struggled in this weekend's test with Aston Martin. And like with Ferrari, I've just come away with more questions than answers. It was just a bit of a mess with so many power unit issues, so many gearbox issues, sensor issues on day one. I've mentioned it several times. If you want to have issues, have them now. Fingers crossed they can get them sorted, because what they have here is a low rate car, very different to the majority of teams in that midfield, but a car that has a baseline which is definitely quick. That definitely, on its day, on a circuit which suits that car, is going to work so well. They've got drivers that are ready for the challenge, drivers that I think can bring a lot to this team and a lot to that midfield fight. But again, have I seen enough over these 3 days? Not really to warrant putting them any higher. I think they're going to be in that fight for best of the rest, but more consistency from other teams, again, leaves me more questions than answers with the Aston Martin team. But a team that did have an awesome weekend, so many laps, joined first, some incredible lap times, which you should never read too much into, but also, I think had an incredible end to last season, 2020, is Alpha Tauri, having a car that by the end of the year was ready to fight at the front of that midfield. And the car they've put on display this weekend looks quick, looks nice and nimble, a slight spin for a big spin for Yuki Tsunoda today down the hill in front of Kimi Raikkonen. But if that's the only issue you're having all weekend, that is brilliant stuff. That's exactly what they want to be seeing. And actually, Tsunoda, being a rookie, it's great the ambitions are there. And as a team overall, it feels like they want to remove this B team status, which we all know is very much there, but where they can is promote this Alpha Tauri team into this fight for best of the rest over a full season. That is way too much to ask, I think, for a team of this size and structure. But why not aim for it? Why not try and go for it? And that's exactly what they're doing. They're going to be in the mix though with the likes of Alpine, and the big thing for them was getting Fernando in this car, seeing just how good Alonso is. And actually, he was right there on the pace of Esteban Ocon. Both of them have a really solid car underneath them, with plenty of laps completed this weekend, and a car that reliability seems great, something we have not said for a very long time with the Renault engine. A team I did expect to have issues though this weekend, that didn't have really any, was McLaren. I've spoken already in great detail about this new rear floor diffuser structure, loophole, madness, craziness from the McLaren team, which is fantastic to see for a team that have struggled and have started to rebuild over the last couple of years. But with this new Mercedes power unit, is it a good thing they've not had any issues? They want to know what's wrong. They want to know just how good the implementation of their power unit is. It seems great, but wouldn't it be so awful if their issues started to crop up at the first race of the season? It's possible, but after completing what was in effect 7 or 8 Grand Prix distances this weekend, having no issues at all is a really good sign heading into the year. And the car itself seems really balanced. Ricciardo has jumped in and seems so happy. Lando seems the happiest he has ever been in a pre-season testing session, but definitely my most improved. I think Alpha Tauri and Red Bull are the other two. And on the subject of Red Bull, what a fantastic test. Yes, Sergio Perez's engine cover decided to go AWOL yesterday. Yes, there's been a few spins, but overall, some fantastic lap times, some simply astounding race pace times compared to the likes of Mercedes, McLaren, Alpine. And you just wonder, is this the year? I don't want to get carried away, and as I mentioned in my running order, I do still think Mercedes are the team to beat. But I think what is fair to say is this is Red Bull's best opportunity in the hybrid era. Max Verstappen is so hungry for this. Have Red Bull finally given him a car to challenge Mercedes? And I think that is the biggest story as we end our testing season. What's going on at Mercedes? Where are Mercedes in the pecking order? I mentioned it earlier. I think they're going to be the team to beat, but after what can only be described as such a tricky weekend for our reigning world champions, all to play for heading into the first race of the season in 2 weeks' time. And I will leave you there. Formula One is back. I cannot wait for the first race of the season. If you are new, feel free to subscribe. But thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.